Yes, people, welcome along to A View from the Stands. My name's Josh, and I'm going to be bringing you all the latest news coming out of Aston Villa. If you are new around here, then be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the like, and get in the comment section as well. And welcome to everyone who is watching live or on replay. I really do appreciate your views. So, tonight we have a lot to discuss. The big news of information we're talking about is the following. Omari Kellyman, negotiations with Chelsea. He is close to joining them. Unai Emery has spoken. He has a clear message to the fans about next season and what to expect and how he actually spends his off time as a manager. Yes, Unai Emery is human, does do human things. And Lewis Dobbin was officially announced today by the official page of Aston Villa. He will be joining the club, or has joined the club, should I say, today on the 23rd of June. There's also things about Tim Irigbenam I want to quickly touch on, as well as the Douglas Luiz situation and much more. Plenty to get packed into today. And as I said, this is usually a 20-25 minute episode where we, in a nutshell, get everything in about Villa. So big up to everyone. Big up to those of you who are watching right now live or on replay. And those of you in live right now, to Rachel, to Chrissa, to VJ, to KSX6, to Duper, to Phantom Football, and anyone else who's coming in to join us. So quite simply, it is the news about Omari Kellyman. This broke yesterday early on, and it was discovered that Chelsea want to sign Omari Kellyman for £19 million. Yes, £19 million. Now, before I go any further into this video, I've seen other creators, I've seen a lot of people talk about it on social media about their uproar with how Aston Villa are almost breaking PSR rules and working with other clubs such as Everton and Chelsea to try and find loopholes. All I can say is this, and this is all I want to say on said matter. When the Premier League is putting in impossible barriers and barriers that our owners are not able to comply with them, we need to find loopholes. We have filthy rich owners who aren't able to spend their money. They have already told the Premier League over and over again, change your metrics, change the scope, change and increase it so that we can spend. And the Premier League have turned around and said no. So I do not blame Aston Villa for finding other ways and trying to negotiate this. However, I am getting sick of hearing fans cry about it from other football clubs. Villa are doing what they need to do to comply so that we can then go and spend big in the summer and not have deductions. So that is my little rant that I want to get off my chest and make sure you guys, and I'm sure you guys all feel the same. But the way to do this, we've got to sell academy products. It is the only way to be able to negotiate and move forward within this and make full profit. So let's come to Omari Kellyman. £19 million to Chelsea. A lot of fans will feel sentimental value when it comes to Omari Kellyman because he was someone who caught the eye on the US summer tour. He was someone last season who actually, a lot of Villa fans said, start him over Cameron Archer. And truth behold, Unai Emery actually saw that approach as well. Hence the reason that Cameron Archer was sent out on loan and Omari Kellyman stayed. Now, with that in mind, why is this Chelsea move fascinating to me? Well, I'll tell you why, chat. And big up to everyone who's watching. Do smash the like button if you're watching right now. And big up to Andy, and to Duper who's in here as well, just joining us. Look, how do I describe this? John Duran, I think, is a potential smokescreen. I think he was a potential smokescreen, and actually it was a way for Villa and Chelsea to start the negotiations. Omari Kellyman going to Chelsea is probably going to be a Carney Triplemaker 2.0. And I hate to say that because I loved Omari Kellyman. I thought Omari Kellyman brought a lot in terms of what he could be for the future. But right now, Omari Kellyman is not the packet or package that Aston Villa need to compete in the Champions League and the Premier League. Therefore, we have to get rid to comply and hope that he doesn't become a worldie. And that is what maybe a lot of Villa fans are probably upset about, is that actually Kellyman could have been a bright star. And I am one of those who thought about that. And we're going to have a quick look at it now. But just to confirm, here is the first piece of news on that about Omari Kellyman. Okay. And we are going to look, as I said, in a little bit more detail in a second about what was said there. But if you look here now, Omari Kellyman has already been given the green light to join Chelsea. Negotiations are underway on personal terms. So this, for me, is almost saying dead cert, gonna happen. And it's now down to Kellymans and negotiations, which, for me, I wonder, Chelsea don't pay big wages or big contracts, but they do it over a long period of time. What has been alluded to me, and this is the big point that I want to come to now, chat. This is the big thing that I want to come to. And someone said it to me earlier, and I completely agree. What is the sell-on fee? Because Chelsea are looking at Omari Kellyman as someone they could probably make a lot of money off in the future. If Chelsea do what a Chelsea do, which is sell on youngsters like we're doing now, then Villa need to put a good sell-on fee. And I don't want 10%. I want 20. I want 30. I hope, and hopefully it will be revealed to us, that some of these youngsters that we're sending out, there is a big sell-on fee. I don't know if anyone knows in the chat right now if there is a big sell-on fee, or let me know in the comment section if you're watching on replay. But I can't find or see any speculation. But what I do hope is that it's a 20, 30%er and that we are getting a fair amount of profit if Kellyman will get eventually sold on by Chelsea, because that's how I see it. So Omari Kellyman, why are we selling him? Well, we've already talked about that. But what is it Chelsea are getting out of a player of Omari Kellyman's ability? Well, let's quickly look at his profile here. He's 18 years old. Okay, he's 18 years old. He is a current England international. He's been through the youth setup. But it's when you go to these stats here, which I'm more interested in, which is, of course, in the Premier League 2. The Premier League 2. The youth setup of the Premier League. 11 appearances, 7 goals. Marksman in that sense. He's good goal return there, a very strong goal return. This isn't the Premier League, remember. This is the BTEC Premier League, the kids one. However, if you look at his appearances in the Premier League, he only gained 2 appearances as an 18-year-old. And that, for me, is what people will be looking at from outside of Aston Villa and going, why are Chelsea signing someone who's only played 2 games in the Premier League and not really done much? Very versatile, likes to play in that attacking midfielder role. He's not necessarily a striker, but he's someone who does play a little bit deeper and can play off both flanks. Now, when you think of Chelsea and Enzo Maresca, I think that's the sort of player that would suit his system or style if they were looking for the future. But he isn't going to be used now. He is not going to be used next season in a Chelsea side. Do not expect to see Omari Kellyman even maybe, he'd be lucky to make it on the bench in that Chelsea squad. I'm not even joking. So there is a bigger picture to this. And it is probably a very, tough conversation that Villa fans have had amongst each other. But think about the Villa hierarchy. Having to make these decisions, saying we're going to have to let a future prospect go because we need to get past this June the 30th compliance and make sure we don't have points deductions. So, look, he's going to Chelsea. It's going to happen. Ignore the market value. But I want you to just look again down here when we go to his... No, it doesn't have the minutes. Apologize. But this is just him in general. Yeah, it does have the minutes. 103 minutes of football in the Premier League 2. 129 minutes in the EFL Trophy. But he's only had 35-minute game time in the Premier League and 90 minutes in the Conference League. So 35 minutes of Premier League action is all he's had, 11 in the Conference League and 90 in a qualifier. It's not bad for an 18-year-old. You have to admit, for an 18-year-old, that isn't bad minutes to rack up there. Played in the Europa Conference League, made his debut in Europe, racked up 35 minutes as an 18-year-old in the Premier League. You have to doff your hat to him and say, well done. But Omari Kellyman to Chelsea was something that I didn't expect. And when we were talking a few days ago, big up to everyone who's in the chat right now, welcome in. Do say hello if you want to. Big up Aviation Trains FC. And big up to Mr. Lanji, who's up the Bristol Massive. Big up to you. I probably said, Ian, if that is Mr. Ian. Right. But my point is this, is that we were suspecting someone like Luca Dean, Moreno, Ramsey, Duran, Buendia could be going to Chelsea. Well, now Villa's game plan is really clear. Sell the youth, make money. Sell the youth, make money. Sell the youth, make money. And that's what we've done. We've done high value percentage turnover, £19 million. The Maatsen deal now looks really cheap in comparison, considering Maatsen was 37.5. You take that off, it's like 17 million in the end for Ian Maatsen. It all makes sense on a piece of paper to comply. So that was just a quick one there on that one with Omari Kellyman. As I said, I am shocked at that. That he did go through, but it is what it is. Next one then that I want to share with you is, of course, I'll do this one. We had an official announcement, like a proper here we go. We had the picture of a lifetime for this guy, and we've been talking about this one for a while, but here it is. Lewis Dobbin has signed on the dotted line. It's official, and even tweeted by the Villa account itself. Aston Villa is pleased to announce the signing of Lewis Dobbin from Everton, and there he is, happy. Monchi, pose him, happy. Gotta rate it. Gotta love it. It's an official signing, people. Now, again, don't want to talk about Dobbin too much, but he looks very excited to join us, by the way. He's very excited to join us. And I want to show you his little tweet here as well. So I'll show you the tweet now. He's joining a Champions League club. Something you've got to rate and respect. He's joining a Champions League. I love saying that, by the way. I'm never, ever going to get sick and tired of saying that. But look what he's done. My only gripe I've got is the way he types. And that's I don't know. Apologies to anyone else who types like this. But it says this. Dobbin has said, so happy to be joining such a huge club with big ambitions, an incredible opportunity. I can't wait to get started and give my all for this club. See you all at Villa Park. And there he is. He's happy to be joining us. Huge club with ambitions and sees it as an opportunity, an upwards move. Won't be fighting in relegation battles anymore. He will be fighting in Champions League battles. And it's nice to see an official signing. It's nice to see a player get its opportunity. But on the other hand, it means that we've lost someone on the other end because Lewis Dobbin came from Everton. Again, if you want to know previous information about Lewis Dobbin, please see previous streams. But we know that he can play out wide. We know that he's had a good full season at Derby County 2 years ago. And we knew that Sean Dyche trusted and used him this year in the Premier League in key games and had around 200 minutes of Premier League action. When you look at Omari Kellyman, who had what was it, like 35 minutes of Premier League action, Lewis Dobbin's accumulated a bit more. And I think he's going to be a Morgan Rogers style sort of player. I think he's going to be a ball carrier. He's going to be a dribbler. And he's got that stockiness like Morgan Rogers has. So that's how I see him as if I was going to try and fit him into any Villa player as such. But I did say what comes with getting Lewis Dobbin is that we've lost someone, another, again, academy youngster, graduate, whatever you want to say, someone who's come through the ranks. And it comes from Big Tim. We've lost Big Tim. And this is what Tim Irigbanam has said, and I'm going to show you this in case you haven't seen it, as this is the latest news coming out of Villa in the last 24 to 48 hours. Because we didn't do a stream yesterday, I'm covering some old news as well, but some of you may not have seen it. So Tim Irigbanam on Instagram has said this: after an amazing 3 years at Aston Villa, it's time to say goodbye. I have so much to thank everyone at this club for, from making my Premier League debut to playing in Europe. It has truly been amazing. Everyone involved in this journey has been so good to me, and I won't forget it. It was an honour to call myself a villain. To my teammates, coaches, and to you fans, you will all be missed. Lots of love, Tim Irigbanam. And I think that is a classy post, a real classy post from a player who, let's be honest, knew that his days were numbered at Aston Villa. He was never really going to make it into that central midfield, especially when you've got Youri Tielemans, John McGinn, Kamara. And then, of course, we've been linked with Ross Barkley. We've now got the centre mid and Enzo Berentia. You know, we are looking at an area in which Tim is 6th or 7th down in the pecking list. And when he did play this season, I will be honest, I don't think he necessarily excelled. I don't think he really stood out. However, some people will be sentimental and say it's sad again to now see Tim Irigbanam go. Now Omari Kellyman, which youngster is next? And when I say that, watch out for potentially a player going to Nottingham Forest. There is a link there, but I'm going to see if there's anything more to that. Another young player who we're going to try and get 4 or 5 million for. So that is some news about Lewis Dobbin and Tim Irigbanam in terms of transfers, dealings, wheelings. One goes one way, one goes the other. It's absolutely, business as usual with Everton and Villa, should I say, which is quite interesting. But Yeah, big up to everyone in the chat. And if you are watching on replay, do appreciate it. Big up to those. If you did watch the Scotland-Hungary game, heartbreak for Scotland. John McGinn is coming home. And let's see if any other Villa players are going to come home early as well. But Hungary, that last-minute goal was an absolute sucker punch, wasn't it? Absolute sucker punch. Right, on to this one next. This one really caught my eye. Now, there's a lot of medicals going on. I don't really want to talk about medicals too much, but it does interest me now how in this day and age, you can do medicals while players are not at their training ground. So when I say medicals are being done, basically, Ian Maatsen's having his medical in the Dutch camp, and Douglas Luiz is having his medical done in the Brazilian camp. And all these players are being able to be assessed and monitored through that, which I think is nuts. In my head, someone flies out there, a club representative, and gets that medical done and then reports back. That's how the only way I can see it. But let's read about this then, chat. Let's read about this. This is an interview from Unai Emery, and this is probably my favourite segment that we're going to do. Because when the gaffer speaks, we listen. And I don't know if you guys feel about that, but when Don Unai Emery speaks, my ears are listening and I can hear it as well. So Don Unai Emery says the following. He says this, and he says the following. He says, and I'm going to share the screen, about being human. First of all, how does he spend his break? How does Unai Emery actually spend his downtime? Yes, Unai Emery, my break is a pretty complete break in terms of football. I follow the Euros, but I only watch a few games. I try to do things that I don't do during the year. Walking, going to the beach, making family meals, being with my friends. In terms of the work, I also try to be very effective. Every day, I'm able to be on the phone for an hour and see for myself things about Aston Villa for next season. Don Unai. We've had a little bit more of a segment into his personal life. He likes to walk, he likes going to the beach, and he likes cooking. And I rate it. I rate it. Don Unai cooks. Now, I wonder what you think Don Unai Emery's are basically favourite meal. What is Don Unai Emery's favourite meal? I want to know. I want to know. I want to know what you think. I reckon he cooks with chilies, with passion, with heat. I reckon that's what he brings. But yeah, it's a nice insight there. Obviously, the life of a manager, he tries to switch off, but he can't. He's on the phone. Happy days there. Let's see the next post then. So he then goes on to say this. Now, this is where you want to get interested, Villa fans. Some of the bits we already know. Some of the bits we already know, but he actually does confirm it in this interview. But yeah, what do Don Unai Emery cooking up some great chat here, and I'd love to hear from the manager because he's one of those enigmas. It says here, the goal when I arrived at the club was to try and consolidate a team that went to Europe on a recurring basis. Let's pause for a second. He wants to try and consolidate a European place finish and get us there. And this is where he says here, and if we entered Europe, try to consolidate the needs of players to compete at that level. In that process, we're doing it fast. So now he's saying, I want my players to be match fit ready to be able to compete in Europe. Not only do we need to get there, but they need to be ready to compete. We got to a semi-final, which is what he's basically getting at. In 6 months, we entered the Conference League, and in a year and a half, we've entered the Champions League. Poetry. We all know that. The Don Unai cooks. We've got into a place which would be lovely. Krim reckons that Don Unai's favourite food is a lasagna with a big slice of garlic bread and garlic butter covered potato cubes. I love how specific that is. I can imagine him cooking a lasagna quite well, old Don Unai Emery. But yeah, so we know that because we've heard Unai talk to us about the journey that he has taken Aston Villa on. It's this next bit now about the final. I haven't heard him say much like this before, but read this and listen to this. This is interesting, to say the least. Compelling is the word I use. I wanted to play a final, and I wanted to win a final, but I accepted that the Olympiacos were better than us. We were immersed in the fight for the Champions League and the league, competing with Tottenham. We arrived in strength. We had many injuries along the way. I focused more on my strength, my energies in trying first to enter the Champions League, and second to try and make the Conference League final. I think when you have like self-reflection, and I think you're very open and honest, he made it really clear to us. Champions League, top 4, priority number 1. However, we all said that, but what we have to remember is this guy's a born winner. He wants to win, and he would have loved to have competed in a final. And I tell you what, still think if we got to the final, we would have won it. Because on a one-game master plan basis, Unai Emery is the man. Olympiacos, I'm sure a lot of you have raised it out of your head, was just a weird, weird scenario and surrounding. And when I think about Olympiacos and that two-legged game, I still scratch my head going, how did it go so wrong? Right, 2 more quotes from Unai. Thank you for everyone who is watching. I do really appreciate your support. It means a lot. So, this next, he gives a little bit take on the future. He says the following. So the Aston Villa process for me right now is a process where I want to give the maximum. I want to enjoy it to the fullest. I want to use all my learning, all my experiences to try to restore that confidence to owners of the club and all the Aston Villa fans. Come on, Unai. Don't you think we've got confidence in you already, buddy? Don't you think the owners have already given you the key? Humble man, humble man to stand there and say he wants to, restore that confidence. Well, we've got confidence in you. Our saying is this: in Unai Emery we trust. And I love that the man is humble enough to go there and say, listen, I still need to prove my worth. He's enjoying the ride. He loves the process. He's going to give it everything. And that's all we want. And a humble man indeed when he says that. I do like that he's still not blowing his boat and still not blowing his own trumpet, should I say, when it comes to his own performance. But yeah, hear this last quote there. Hear this last quote, because I think this one's tasty. This is it. This is next season now. This is his goals. This is his goals. And he says the following. Okay. Aston Villa, let's see if we are able to maintain the Champions League. There are teams that have been going in and out, like Real Sociedad. My greatest challenge next season is to be competitive in the Champions League, not to participate for a year as something anecdotal. Wow. Unai knows that Champions League again is a priority. So, Villa fans, what does this mean also? It's about being competitive in the Champions League. His biggest challenge yet, and I think we have to come to terms with this, those of you who love the FA Cup, those of you who love the Carabao Cup, just wave goodbye to it now. We ain't going to be out competing in the FA Cup. We're not going to be going on all fronts in the Carabao Cup. But with the new Champions League format and league system, Unai wants us to be competitive. And I think, for me, competitive means not getting relegated out of that first stage of the league. You have to finish in the top 24. Unai Emery will need to make sure that Villa finish in the top 24 out of 32. Anything below 24, you get knocked out. So Unai Emery, for me, I think being competitive in Aston Villa's first full season of the Champions League is finishing 24th or above. I don't care if we finish in the last slot of the playoffs in 24th. We take it. That's point one. But point two, which I have to deal with Arsenal fans, Chelsea fans, every time I go on Never a Foul, I'm being told, don't get used to it. Villa, you're like Newcastle United. You had your one season in the Champions League, now you're gone. It's like a bit of Base Hunter. Now you're gone. I realize my love to you is strong. Yeah? No, it's not Base Hunter vibes. We're here to stay. And Unai knows that is where his credit as a manager will be sort of judged. Unai will go from top manager in the Premier League to almost being up there as considered one of the best in the league. Not of all time, but in the league currently. He'll be on the Pep conversations again. Because to sustain back-to-back Champions League football with Aston Villa, wow. Wow is all I can say. Captain Mike says he's going for paella and tapas. Old Don Unai, what he cooks up, as we know. Unai Emery. Breaking news. Unai Emery is a human being. He actually sleeps, he goes for walks, and he cooks food. Unbelievable. But yeah, in terms of that then, Aston Villa latest news. We're wrapping up here. Omari Kellyman, close to moving to Chelsea. It's just the contracts that are being sort of dotted and the T's being crossed. Second of all, Lewis Dobbin was announced today by Aston Villa as official. Timo Rigbenam is going the other way to Everton, basically near enough official. He's wrote a goodbye message on Instagram. Medicals are being done from Ian Maatsen and Douglas Luiz in those camps with Illing Jr. and Enzo Berentia as well. So all those medicals will be tied up in the next 24, 48 hours. So we'll get to celebrate that. And then I'll say it again, Don Unai has spoken. And when Don Unai speaks, we listen, we take it in, and we realise the goals for next season are being set. Not to get relegated out the Champions League first stage, and number 2, get top 4 again. As always, thanks to everyone who's been watching the video today. If you have been watching live or on replay, I always do appreciate it, and I do my best to respond to all your comments where possible if you comment on the replay. We'll be back again with more breaking news if and when it falls. As always, the 10 p.m. slot on a view the 10 p.m. slot on a view from the stands will be there for all to see. Big up to Ream as well. He just says we've raised, as of speaking, £55 million. It's brilliant, and that is going to be our war fund going into the summer, with also more outcomes going. I expect Villa to have 150 million war fund just from player sales coming forward, and then we're going to go hard on some big names this summer when the window officially opens. Big up to everyone. Vamos VJ. Big up the Duper, to Rob, to Captain Mike, to Noel Kane, to Chrissa, to Jellyfish, to Rachel, to Andy, and to anyone else who's been listening in the background. I always appreciate it. This has been Aston Villa, latest transfer news and healings this summer. I'll see you on the next one. Stay tuned. Ta-da.